over the last few weeks, I've been testing this, which is the Decathlon MT100 down jacket. And there's a lot to like about this, apart from the price. But this jacket definitely isn't for everybody. So let's talk about it. For the record, I am not sponsored by Decathlon, and I purchased this jacket with my own money to review. And you'll also notice in the description, there are no affiliate links. So I've got no financial interest in whether you buy this jacket or not. This is just my genuine, unbiased opinion. For me, the standout feature of this jacket is that it is super lightweight at just 329 grams in size extra large. And despite it being so light, it's also surprisingly warm as well. Now, I wore this out with just a t-shirt on underneath on a very windy day when it was 6 degrees Celsius. And, I was toasty warm throughout my whole walk. And I wanted to be a little bit objective about this. And so I actually strapped a thermometer to my chest that day that worked on Bluetooth, so I could take readings from my phone without having to undo the jacket and compromise the reading. And what I can tell you is that as I left the house, it was 25 degrees Celsius inside the jacket, despite it being 6 degrees outside. And it stayed at 25 degrees Celsius throughout the entire walk, apart from when I got to the top of Hawley Hill, where it was very, very windy, and I was stood still just watching the dogs have a bit of a play. And I was there sort of 5-10 minutes, then it dropped to 23 degrees Celsius. And then as I left that area and climbed back out of the wind, then the temperature climbed back up to 25 degrees Celsius. So I think that was a fantastic performance, given how light this jacket actually is. Now, Decathlon rate this as being comfortable from plus 5 degrees Celsius down to minus 5 degrees Celsius if you're walking while you're wearing a base layer and a light fleece underneath. And I think, depending on the individual concerned, that's probably a fair assessment. They also say it's comfortable, for just plus 5 degrees Celsius if you are just standing still. And with that weight and warmth, you also get really great packability, because this thing folds down into its own pocket, and you could squeeze that even further if you had a compression sack. And having the ability to have something like this that you can just throw into a bag is a really useful thing to have, because you can throw this into a rucksack. It doesn't take up any space, you certainly don't feel the weight of it. And then if you need a warm layer, you can put one on if you're feeling cold, which I'm going to do right now because it's 4 degrees and I'm freezing. The jacket also has a really high funnel neck collar, and that's something that I always look for in a jacket, because it does stop the wind from blowing into your neck, and you can kind of snuggle down into it when you're cold and you're waiting somewhere. So it's a really nice feature to have, and it's great on this jacket. You've also got a hood, which is worth having if you are feeling particularly cold that day or the wind is coming in and you just want to have that extra layer. It does help you cocoon your face away from the wind and helps you stay warm. The zip design on this is really clever, as well as having this nice little pull here, so you can access this with gloves. It flows really easily, and then there is a baffle on the inside of the zip. And this is designed to do two things. One is it stops heat escaping, because this is actually insulated as well, so you're not going to lose too much heat through the zip. And also it'll stop wind coming through there as well. Now, sewn into this wind baffle, you've got this lighter green stripe, and that stripe is actually a zip guard, and it's there so that the zip doesn't catch. And I found the zip doesn't catch this at all, and it flows really freely. So they've done a really good job with the zip. The way they've designed these pockets, you can access them here with the side zips, and then once your hands are inside, they've actually put the insulating layer on the outside. Now that's really important for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, with the insulation on the outside of the pocket, it does keep your hands nice and warm if you want to keep your hands in your pockets. The second reason is if you're getting too hot, because that insulation is on the outside, you can open the zips here, then you can vent off excess heat and control your temperature that way. And that's a really nice feature to have. Now, the cuffs on this are really interesting, and it's not something I've seen before, because if you look at the cuff, set back from the edge where the elastic normally would, they've actually got the elastic on the inside. And I thought this was really weird, but I've actually come to really appreciate this, because what it means is the elastic tends not to ride up my wrist, and the edge of the cuff always falls flatter towards, or nearer towards, my hand than other jackets I've had where the elastic is right on the edge. So I think Decathlon have done a really good job there. And the last little feature is on the hem here, you do have an elastic draw cord, so you can cinch this up and make sure this is nice and tight and it's not going to be really baggy, flopping around, letting all that lovely warm air out, and stops gusts of wind from entering as well. So again, really nice little design feature, doesn't cost much, and it does make a big difference when it comes to functionality. Now, a lot of the online reviews I've seen say that the sizing of this jacket tends to come up small and you need to order a size larger. Personally, I've not found that at all. I'm a size 45-inch chest, so I ordered an extra large, and that is meant to be from 42 up to 45. And I've got bags of room in here. There is room for a light fleece underneath. The cuffs are all good, and the hem length is a good length as well. Saying that, I've recently lost quite a lot of weight. While I am a 45-inch chest, I don't have a belly at all now. While my belly probably used to stick out a little bit more than my chest does, now I am pretty much flat. So that is something to bear in mind. If part of you stick out further than your chest, you may need to go up a size, because there isn't a huge amount of room in the waist. So far, so good. But this jacket isn't perfect, and it definitely has problems. Now, the first one for me is the hood. Whilst the hood is a nice to have, this one doesn't have any adjustments on there. And if I put the hood up, and I look up and down, the hood does track with me and it fits my head pretty well. But if I want to look at 90 degrees left or 90 degrees right, it looks kind of crazy because my face just spins inside the hood, which continues to look directly forwards. And it's particularly mad if I want to cross the road and I've got to look left or right constantly, because I have to spin my whole body, and that just looks kind of crazy. The second issue for me is this kind of funnel neck collar. Whilst it's nice and high, it's a little bit baggy, and there's no adjustment on here either. So you can't kind of cinch it down, move it close to your neck, and then again, stop all that heat escaping. I do feel like I'm losing heat through this because of that. So it would have been nice if I could actually cinch that down. And I think the remainder of the problems with this jacket are the sort of problems that you would have with any jacket of this type, but they're worth talking about in case you're not aware about the limitations and the kind of disadvantages of having a lightweight down jacket. So the first one is, because this has been designed to be lightweight, the material on this is very thin. It's a very thin polyamide. I think it's 20D, I think it is. I could be wrong there, but it's a very thin material, and it just does not give the impression that it's going to stand up to kind of heavy bushcraft use. In fact, when I'm walking the dogs, I've avoided certain trails because I know there are brambles and bushes along the way, and I feel like this would get ripped and I want to kind of look after it. I think if you're out on kind of open moorland or out kind of in the mountains, away from the woods and away from this kind of heavy dense vegetation, I think this is fine. But I don't think this is a good jacket for bushcraft, and it's certainly not a good jacket for kind of walking the dogs in this sort of area where I'm kind of pushing through bushes to pick up after them and maybe retrieve balls and chase after them when they're running after squirrels, etc. So it's not a kind of robust jacket that way. That said, if you were to wear this under a smock or under a waterproof, as an insulating mid layer, it's absolutely fantastic for that, because it's light, it's warm, nice and breathable, and then having that outer layer kind of takes away that disadvantage of the fact that it's not too robust. And the final disadvantage with this jacket is the very thing that makes it so warm yet so lightweight, and that is the insulation material, which is down. Now, this jacket is made from 90% goose down and 10% feather, and it has a fill power of 800, which is very good. It's comparable with down jackets that cost several £100s more. The problem is with the down itself, because once down gets wet, it loses most of its insulation properties and it could leave you feeling cold. And once it gets wet, it's going to be very hard to dry if you're camping and you haven't got somewhere indoors where you can dry it properly. So you have to think about whether down is going to be the right choice of material for you. If you're someone where a couple of 100 grams does make that difference, then you're not going to get anything better than down. For the weight, it is one of the warmest materials you can have. But if you're an average walker or an average camper, it may make more sense to carry a couple of extra 100 grams and be guaranteed to stay warm even if you get wet. And I think a lot of us, we're not that lightweight to begin with, and people like myself definitely, rather than lose, a couple of 100 grams and risk being cold, I would be much better off going down to Slimming World, losing a couple of pounds that week, and be guaranteed to stay warm instead. It's just something to think about. So, given everything that I've said, on balance, would I recommend this jacket? Well, yeah, if you understand what you're buying, I think this is a very good jacket, and I think Decathlon have done a fantastic job with it. I think Decathlon in general usually do a very good job of things. I like this, it is a good jacket. It's going to have a place in my bag, especially during the kind of warmer months when I want something, there for emergencies, or I want something when I'm camping in the evening, for example. This is going to be great to just have in the bag, pull it out, and I've got something nice and warm to wear. But don't rush out and buy this jacket, because next video I'm going to do a review of another jacket that I've also been trialing. It's 1/3 of the price of this, and it might just be the better jacket. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, think about subscribing, hit the bell icon, and hopefully I'll see you next time.